When you saw an opportunity, you built a business around it. And every day since, you've kept a sharp eye on ways to evolve and keep your business thriving. It takes courage, creativity, and a clear perspective. At Bremer Bank, we understand that your business is the result of your hard work and ingenuity, and we're here to support you with solutions when you spot an opportunity to grow. Work with Bremer Bank, because understanding is everything.
Want your boss to put some real action behind the rhetoric when they talk about making your workplace more inclusive? Find out how to hold their feet to the fire and demand diversity on the Diversity Dude podcast.
Hello there, and welcome back to the Diversity Dude podcast. I'm your host, Lambert Fisher, marriage and family therapist, award-winning author, and national speaker on the topic of multicultural awareness and diversity. And for those of you who are interested in even more positive and encouraging tips and strategies beyond what I share in podcasts like this, then feel free to check out my award-winning book, Diversity in Clinical Practice, nationally recognized for the unique way in which it addresses the often difficult topic of multicultural awareness and diversity. Designed for more than just therapists, if you're a helping professional in any way, Diversity in Clinical Practice can help you meet the greatest variety of cultural needs possible for those whom you serve, and it's available in paper and audiobook versions for your convenience. And if you haven't heard it yet, I invite you to visit TED.com and check out my talk called What to Do When You Offend Someone, where I offer a positive and practical perspective on how to navigate unintentional offenses in daily life. To date, it has been viewed over 500,000 times. Check it out for yourself, and if you're encouraged by it as well, share it with a friend. And whether it be through my one-on-one relationship building efforts as a therapist or my informing and empowering efforts as an author and speaker, know that my personal mission is to do my part to improve the world one strengthened relationship at a time. So today I want to share with you an encouraging perspective on resisting the temptation to rewrite history. As I continue to work to support people everywhere as they live their best lives, individually as well as in relationship with those around them, even those who try to stay out of politics are yet again impacted by the latest executive orders from the president, this time targeting funding to the Smithsonian Institution, and funding that reportedly advances divisive narratives and improper ideology. An Associated Press report summarized that the president is making claims of recent efforts to rewrite America's history by casting founding principles of the United States in a negative light. The ramifications of this order extends to the institution's museums, education and research centers, and the National Zoo. Now, while I'll leave the fine details of the executive order to those in the political sphere, I'd like to focus for a brief moment on the potential motivations and ramifications of decisions like this on everyday efforts to develop and maintain healthy and personal and professional relationships with those around you right now. And since this topic might come up in some way, no matter where you land on this topic, I wanted to share a perspective that might help contribute to a healthier conversation and hopefully one that maintains a relationship afterwards rather than cause unnecessary division. To do so, let me give you a little bit of context about what informs it. As I mentioned, I'm a marriage and family therapist who provides strategies for strengthening and maintaining personal and professional relationships in their various forms, including but not limited to marriage relationships. And yet, there are times when committed partners come to therapy to identify and overcome what's making the relationship difficult, only to discover that one or both partners is bringing past baggage into that relationship. Now, sometimes that baggage is clear. Someone was hurt by a previous partner and they take their emotions out on their current partner. Or maybe they don't even realize what they're doing, but based on a past hurt, they have higher than usual and sometimes unmeetable standards that their partner feels pressure to meet in order to make them feel safe. Other times, it's not so clear. Maybe there was a near or distant relative who did things that hurt people, but they never hurt the individual sharing that experience. Sometimes they go so far as to delete even being related to that person out of fear of being associated with them negatively, or their last name, or that family trait that they have in common. At other times, they go out of their way to try to convince people to forget that the bad things even happen, so they don't have to feel bad about the good things that happen in their relationship. Moving forward in those situations, the first challenge is helping the couple become aware of the influence of the past experience on their current feelings and behaviors. If that is successful, then they can both work together to acknowledge the lessons learned from past experiences, good lessons and bad lessons, as well as work together to make the future better than the past, holding on to the good while distancing themselves from the bad aspects of even that same person. This is what I think of when I hear of efforts to label history as being the history being shared at African American History Museum and the forthcoming African American Women's History Museum that doesn't even have a physical building yet, and yet somehow it's still being promoted as being improper, divisive, or anti-American ideology. Underlying these efforts, I'm reminded of people who often visit American history museums in their various forms and instantly feel strong feelings and hold on to those feelings throughout their visit and beyond. Now, for those who feel a sense of empathy for those who came before them, compassion for what they've experienced, a gratefulness for what was experienced often occurs then and how it paved the way for a better experience today. For these people, the recounting of an admittedly difficult and in many ways traumatic history has the potential to be empowering and uplifting. For seeing how bad things were can help you appreciate how much better things are now and what it took to get there. And yet, seeing how things came to be the way things were can also help you see how many things are eerily still similar and could benefit from even further growth and improvement. And this is how many other people experience the difficult historical truths displayed in American history museums in its various forms. For if you enter these museums and you empathize more with the people who perpetuated things others experienced as traumatic, then it's understandable to feel some inner conflict as a result. But just as we can be inspired to believe in our own potential for good based on the identification with those similar to us in some way who came before us and accomplished similar things, so also can we be discouraged by the potential harm, or at least the perception of ill intent and harm, based on identification with those similar to us in some way who came before us and accomplished similar things. But just like I share with my couples in therapy, just because your parents or grandparents or great grandparents struggled in some way or did some things doesn't automatically mean that you have to struggle and do those things either. Now, hope and good intentions won't do this alone. However, if you're intentional about taking steps to learn what personal and environmental factors contributed to the perspective and actions of their struggle, then you can take steps to avoid following in their footsteps. You see, it takes risking learning about imperfect history, both the good and the bad, to effectively maximize the good and avoid the bad. This is why many people are concerned about efforts to label certain history as improper and other history as proper, and others trying to make efforts to fill in the missing experiences of that history to be divisive. Sure, sometimes people are genuinely trying to be deceiving through their misinformation and historical ignorance. In this view, I view it similar to someone saying, hey, don't tell them how the magic trick was done. If they stay ignorant, we can reserve the right to use the same trick again in the future because they wouldn't have been able to learn how to defend against it. In this way, efforts to label a more complete, even imperfect history as divisive can understandably sound like an intentional effort to deceive, maintain ignorance, and maintain the benefits of any inequality that exists today as a result. However, while this is unfortunately sometimes the case, as admitted by many who have felt that way, this is also not always the case. Sometimes the history genuinely feels divisive to many because they believe that if any part of their history is bad, then all of their history is bad. And so, to preserve any good in their history, they then seek to ignore or ban discussion of the bad aspects of a divisive history and label it as un American. This need not be the case. Just like the effort to wrestle with the perception of a beloved family member, it's possible to appreciate the good times you've had and the valuable lessons that you learned for someone while simultaneously acknowledging that they were not perfect and that there are also some aspects of that same person who you loved that you do not want to emulate or continue. Not only that, but if that relative had a negative past impact that has had a trickle down impact on those who you know today, you could even go so far as to distance yourself from the past bad experiences of your loved one by helping to repair that which was damaged, even if that was years ago. Not out of guilt or obligation, but as an outward gesture reflecting an inward decision to hold on to the good while distancing yourself from the bad. In this way, history need not be deleted, ignored, suppressed, or even vilified. As relates to American history, there's no need to spend time arguing what parts of history really happened, banning the bad and magnifying that which was perceived to be good. Instead, Avoid the unintentional disrespect for those who may feel as though they are continually impacted by the negative behaviors of those who came before them. And then show that you know what happened. You're trying to learn more about what happened, care about what happened and who it happened to, and that you will make intentional efforts to not perpetuate or repeat what happened. And while your self esteem is intact, you don't have to feel guilty for the actions of those who came before. You will instead be voluntarily doing whatever is within your power to control to help make life better for everyone today, including yourself, and especially for those who identify with a different side of that same history. With all this in mind, my hope for you is that you would make intentional efforts to explore your history and any other history you have the opportunity to learn about. Find out who you identify with and explore why. Then decide one day at a time what aspects of the past you will like and plan to perpetuate, and what aspects of the past you will want to learn from and not repeat. And in what ways you can help someone else improve their lives who may be negatively impacted by past behaviors, not out of guilt for what came before, but out of genuine care for who you're interacting with today. And with that, I'll say thanks again for listening to today's Diversity Do podcast. If you have any pressing diversity related questions that you'd like me to address on an upcoming podcast, or if your organization is in need of a shame-free and empowering guest speaker or training on this often sensitive topic, then feel free to reach out to me directly at www.diversitymadesimple.com. And if you know of anyone else who can benefit from a positive and encouraging perspective on this often difficult topic of diversity, feel free to send them a link to this podcast so they can be encouraged as well. Or share with them my award-winning book, Diversity in Clinical Practice, available at Amazon.com. And don't forget to visit TED.com and check out my talk called What to Do When You Offend Someone. I hope it inspires you and that you share with someone so that they can be inspired as well. And as usual, I look forward to addressing as many topics as possible in future podcasts to help you improve as many relationships as possible, at home, at work, and in your community. And as always, remember this: you don't need to know everything about everyone in order to have a positive impact on someone. Thank you all for tuning in, and have a great day.
Tune in each week and find out how to demand and implement diversity at your job. To hear more, check out previous Diversity Dude shows on ShalettaMakesMeLaugh.com.
You know Shaletta makes you laugh, but did you know Shaletta Brundage can also make you think and boost your business? Media personality, activist, and comedian Shaletta Brundage founded Shaletta Makes Me Laugh to celebrate and share the best of Black culture. It's a podcasting platform. You can download 10 weekly podcasts hosted by African-American subject experts at ShalettaMakesMeLaugh.com or wherever you find your favorite podcasts. ShalettaMakesMeLaugh.com is also a production house, creating broadcast-quality commercial content. And Shaletta and her team of storytellers create powerful promotional campaigns to get businesses the brand awareness they're looking for. Some of Minnesota's top businesses trust Shaletta, and you can too. Get out the word about your events and products and get in front of communities of color with ShalettaMakesMeLaugh.com. She's got the power to help your business.
What's up, everyone? It's Shaletta. I'm here getting a phone for one of my newly minted teenagers with Xfinity Mobile. They've got great options, affordable plans, and solid coverage that works for our whole family. With Xfinity Mobile, my daughter can stay connected with me wherever she goes. And did you know when you sign up, you can get an extra phone line free for a full year? Switch to Xfinity Mobile today for more savings, more smiles, and more ways to stay connected.